Well, good evening, everybody. How is everybody doing? Hello there, Gary. Hello there, Walsis. Science Bob. Nice to see you back. Nice to have you. Hello, Chris. How are you doing?
Good. How you doing, Mr. Grizzly?
Wonderful.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Hello, Catherine. Let's see who else we got coming in here. My hands are not working tonight. So, Brian Barber, I was just thinking about you. I was going to message you after the show. Hopefully, all's well. Gene Hudson. Hello there, Lala. Hopefully, you like my little thing I sent you, Gene. So, what we got going on tonight?
Oh, well, we got a special guest, Lon Strickler. He's got a little bio here I'm going to read. Lon Strickler is a Floridian researcher, author, and publisher of the syndicated Phantoms and Monsters blog. He began the blog in 2005, which has steadily grown in popularity and is read daily by tens of thousands of paranormal enthusiasts, investigators, and those seeking the truth. His research and reports have been featured on hundreds of online media sources, and several of these published reports have been presented on various television segments, including the History Channel's Ancient Aliens, Sci-Fi's Paranormal Witness, Fact or Fiction Paranormal Files, and Destination America's Monsters and Mysteries in America. He has been interviewed in hundreds of radio online broadcasts, including multiple guest appearances on Coast to Coast AM, and he is also featured in Destination America's Monsters and Mysteries in America television show, The Sykesville Monster Episode. Lon has written 9 books and is currently a host of Phantoms and Monsters Radio, and he's also a guest on our show.
Yeah,
So
Lon
welcome
Strickler.
aboard, Mr.
Come
Lon.
on down. How you doing there, sir?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Wonderful. Nice to see you again. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
So tell us a little bit about you. I mean, what got you into the lovely paranormal world? I'm sure you've been asked that about 1,000 times, but some of us don't know you as well.
I kind of fell into it, actually. When I was a kid, I kind of knew things were a little bit different about me. But the initial incident happened when I was about 9 years old. I used to, and I still do. I now live and then did grow up near the Gettysburg battlefield. So I used to spend a lot of time there. I was a little history nerd. So I'd get on my bike and ride up to the battlefield during the summer break. And I'd spend time there. And, I don't know why. I was just really drawn to the place. So one day in particular, in July, and I think it was 1967 or 68, one of the two. And I was in the area called the Valley of Death. And for those who know the battlefield, it's the area between Little Round Top, the wheat field, and Devil's Den. And most of the fighting there was done on the second day of the battle anyway. I was on the access road, and all of a sudden, it's like a huge TV screen opened up in front of me. And I was in the battle, literally. I mean, I was seeing soldiers, hearing gunfire, cannons, smelling gunpowder. All my senses were heightened. And of course, I imagined what I looked like. I guess I was freaking out, but it lasted about maybe 30 seconds. And then it just vanished. And I didn't know what to think. So after that occurred, I really didn't have any answers. I lived in a very conservative household, very conservative part of the country. And, you just don't go around talking about things like that with folks. And my parents knew nothing about the paranormal, and nobody I knew did as well. So I was kind of left there hanging. I had to kind of figure it out for myself. So as I got older, and even when I was in high school, I was literally doing paranormal investigations. And, back in the early 70s, you tell somebody you're a paranormal investigator, you get the funny look. And first of all, they'd ask you, what the hell's that? And then you'd have to tell them. And what I was doing at the time, and it was all word of mouth back then, I was going to locations, homes and such. And I am an intuitive, and I discovered that. And I learned to control it somehow, kind of understand what I was sensing. And I try to help people out with what was going on around their homes. And I did that. When I graduated from high school, I moved to Maryland. I lived near Baltimore for about 40 years, but during all that time, I was doing paranormal investigations. And of course, in 1981, when I had a Bigfoot encounter, that's when I kind of added cryptids to it, and then everything kind of snowballed from there. And I've been doing it all these years since then.
Wow. I think I've seen something about a post on your Facebook. Your family had some kind of shop, whether it was toy shop or something like that.
Yeah, we had a hobby shop.
Okay.
And of course, especially back in the day, they used to sell everything in hobby shops, even Ouija boards. I mean, chemistry sets, Ouija boards, all that good stuff I love to fool with. And but I was never really keen on Ouija boards. Had an incident one time when I was in high school with at a party involving a Ouija board, and I kind of stayed away from them after that. But I remember my dad used to sell them, and he'd hear a lot of flack from people because of it. And actually, there's a law and it's still a valid law on the books, because I know a woman who has a shop here in town they've tried to shut her down, saying she's involved with witchcraft. But all she does is has a crystal shop and does tarot readings and such. So it's, like I said, it's a conservative town. It's a lot of Catholic, a lot of Lutherans, mostly. It's so it's kind of the belt. We call it the belt buckle of Pennsylvania, the Bible belt buckle. So
right. So is it like they specify that Ouija boards are not legal, or is it like considered witchcraft as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, how people are. They kind of encompass everything into it. Right. Even when you're talking about even crystals and such. But it's a state law, actually. I mean, there's lots of places that have these shops, but it's just a matter of a jurisdiction that will follow through with it. And unfortunately for her, the police department in Hanover, Pennsylvania, are giving her a little bit of an issue. So she's filed a petition for the next voting round in November to have it taken off the books. So we'll see what happens.
So, you got anything particular you want to talk about? You got some books coming up or anything?
I'm the eclectic paranormal investigator and writer and everything. It's not much I haven't been involved with for some period of time. Currently, our team is kind of the lead. I think it is the lead investigators with the Chicago Mothman phenomena that's been going on now since 2011. I've written 2 books about it. One of my investigators, Tobias Whalen, he's written a book about it. And he's been involved with several TV shows that have dealt with the subject.
I actually haven't heard anything about the Chicago Mothman. I've heard about the other
standard. You don't know anything about that.
The Point Pleasant one I have, but I have not heard about that.
Yeah, well, it's a winged. What's been going on in Chicago? It's a humanoid-like being that has been seen throughout the city or throughout the Chicagoland area, where it's a winged humanoid. That's simply what it is. It looks human. It's got wings. It's got some supernatural aspects to it. Sometimes it flies without using its wings. It's got red eyes. Many times it's seen like that. It can subtly appear and disappear.
So it's a Bigfoot with wings. That's it. I'm just
well,
kidding.
not really. I mean, it's
No,
the,
I
the
know,
body.
just
The
one
body's
point.
description is more of a dark colored, emaciated looking humanoid, anywhere from 5.5 to 6 to 7 foot tall, different sizes. Many
Right.
times it looks like it's kind of shiny or wet looking, but for the most part, the wing structure has been that of a gargoyle over bat, and the wingspan can go up to 15 foot total wingspan. And at this point now, we have documented 165 sightings and encounters,
Holy cow.
and we know there's much more than that. Yeah, it's a continued. It's kind of the cryptid that keeps on giving, and we just, we get hot periods and then we get slow periods. It kind of moves up and down. But this past year, 2023, I think we had 6 or 7 sightings, which was really low. Now, I don't know if it's waning for a reason, but we've had sightings throughout the year, all kinds of weather and situations. So I don't know if it is waning or not, but we'll see. I kind of got a feeling that 2024 is going to be really active in the paranormal world. I really do.
I think it's going to be really active in all kinds of things.
I think
Just in
so. I
general.
really do. All
weird
over.
year.
I mean, we've been really busy here in South Central Pennsylvania, in particular with cryptid canines, upright canine sightings and encounters.
Dogman or something else?
Dogman, right. Down in Maryland, and Maryland's an area that's traditionally well known for cryptid canine sightings. It has been for about a century and a half now. But anyway, Pennsylvania, we've been looking into the phenomena real intently now since 2013. And it seems to be picking up again. And we're actually working on four cases right now. And we're going to be going to a location on Saturday, just north of us, where there have been other sightings, as well as little people sightings, which I'm interested to see what that entails with this witness. But it seems to be a hot area, and it's an area we're pretty familiar with because of its location is very near the Appalachian Trail. It goes into the Alleghenies, not far from there, and it's just a location where there's just a lot of weird things going on.
You often visit people in their sightings to investigate, or I've seen some of your podcasts and I've seen you read some accounts. I wasn't sure what kind of investigating you typically do. So if you want to explain that.
We investigate anything. I mean, if we have the ability to get there and do it, we're going to do it. I have my team, the Phantoms and Monsters 14 research team. We have about 20 members right now, nationwide. So we try to get as many as we can, boots on the ground, talking to witnesses in person. But we've also got an affiliate team of about 35 groups and individuals as well. So, we can usually fall back on somebody if we need to get something looked into. So, but here in Pennsylvania, there's, I guess about 6 of us altogether, well, 5 or 6 of us altogether. And then there's myself and 2 others that live right here in South Central. So we do a lot of these local cases together.
Oh, interesting.
So we're busy.
Really cool. That's awesome. I think we had a couple questions in here. Did you see those, Grizzly?
Yes,
I don't know if I lost them now.
No, you're
There
good.
was one of them wanted to know what was the most, basically like the most memorable or notable Bigfoot case.
Well, of course, other than mine, I have literally looked into hundreds of cases. I mean, since 1981. My encounter happened at Sykesville, Maryland, just east of the city along the South Branch of Patapsco River. People remember the episode from Monsters and Mysteries in America. I did the episode on that back in 2013. But anyway, I was fishing. I used to do a lot of fly fishing back in the day, and I was at the on the South Branch of Patapsco River. I was doing some smallmouth bass fishing, and I was in the river, and that branch of the river is very narrow anyway, so it's not a whole lot of space between the banks. I guess the river itself was probably about 12 foot in width there. So I was standing in the river, and I saw a dog that was kind of going in and out of the weeds on the other bank, on the north bank of the river. And I ain't paying any mind, so I just kept on fishing. But then I heard the dog yelp. And when I heard that, I looked up and I saw something huge standing up in the weeds. Now, the weeds were really tall. I mean, this thing stood up and the weeds covered it about mid-body. And it was very dark in color. I thought it had a lot of hair on it, but I wasn't sure what it was. And as I was watching it, it started moving to my left towards the riverbank. And it walked out of the weeds. And the first thing I thought was Neanderthal. But this thing had hair all over it. It was dark brown, kind of matted hair, had a conical head, but the very, very large brow ridge. But honestly, I was so close to it, and I could tell it was male because you could definitely see the genitalia on this thing. And it stood about 7.5 to 8 foot, very muscular, huge. And it just stood there, and we locked eyes with each other. We were about 40 foot away from each other. We were very close. And for about 10 seconds, we were just looking at each other. Now, this thing was making a clicking sound. I think it was gnashing its teeth. And, you know, I did get kind of a whiff of like a fox urine smell, but it wasn't overpowering. And I didn't know what to think. I mean, let's put it this way. If I had a gun, I would have never shot it because it looked more human to me than ape. And I wasn't really fearful. I was more in shock, I guess, than anything else.
Right.
And then back that time in 81, you know, people heard of the Boggy Creek thing and the Matt Patterson Gimlin film as such. I thought I was looking at a Bigfoot, but I didn't quite know what I was looking at.
You know, a lot of people say that. I don't know what it was. They say that.
I mean, it's hard to comprehend when it's right in front of you and you're looking at it. And this thing, after about 10 seconds, it turned very quickly and walked briskly up into the woods. And that was it. That's the last I saw of it. So what I did, I got out of the river. I walked up to my car, got in the car, had my hip waders still on, turned the car around and went into town, went into Sykesville, which was only about a 3-minute drive. It was about a mile. And found the nearest phone, which was at a bar that was located right beside the river. I should have went in, but I didn't. It was the payphone outside. So I called the local police department, told them what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of heard a little bit of snickering on the other end, but I didn't think too much about it. Then the woman tells me, well, I tell you what, she said, go back to where you were, because I told her it was about a mile from where I was, and we'll have an officer meet you there. And I'm thinking, well, why in the hell would I want to go back down there? You know, I don't know what this thing is back or, you know. So anyway, I did. I went out there, immediately got in my car, drove back up the road. It was River Road. And when I got to the location, there was a Maryland State police officer already standing there with one of those old wooden barriers across the road. So I pulled up, rolled my window down, and first thing he said was, you got to get out of here. I said, well, I made the report. I called Sykesville Police. He said, I don't care. You got to go. No arguments.
That's weird.
Told me turn around and leave. Okay.
That's weird.
So I did. I went back home. I lived in Sykesville at the time, so I went back home. got home, sat around about an hour or so, decided, well, I'm going back out there. So I changed clothes, went back out, drove back on River Road. And when I got on the River Road, I mean, all up and down the road, just loaded with cars. I mean, there were cars parked there where I did find a spot, walked back up to the barrier. And by that time, there was a Howard County cop standing there. So I was looking around, and they had people with dogs going in and out of the woods, out of the weeds, all over. Must have been a half dozen of them. And they had a huge white tent set up over there on the other side of the river where I saw this thing. So I walked up to the Howard County police officer, said hi. I said, what's going on? He kind of smiled and said, somebody said they saw Bigfoot. Oh, well, I didn't tell him I'm the one who made the report. So I said, oh, okay. So I'm looking around, looking down the road, and there's, I mean, every jurisdiction in the area must have been there. There were cops everywhere. And then there were two black Wagoneers sitting there. And back in that time, that's what the feds used to drive around in. And there was two of those. Heard a helicopter, didn't see it, but I heard a helicopter. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what the hell did I stir up here? So I was there for about 10 minutes. I didn't want people starting to question me. So I walked back to my car and went home. Well, when I got home, I started calling the local TV stations, and I was talking to the news desk and telling them what had happened. There was 3 different networks at the time. And they said, oh, yeah, we're interested. Let us give you a call back. Give us your number. Give us a call back. We'll find out what's going on. Then we'll interview. Okay, good. Well, 5 days later, nobody called. So I called one station, WMAR. I got a hold of the news editor. I told him who I was, told him what I was calling for. He said, I can't talk to you, and hung up.
Wow.
Well, then I knew something was up. So that was 81. Several years later, a Sykesville police officer contacted me who had been there, and he verified everything. He wrote it down, verified everything for me. I didn't really talk to a whole lot of people about it. I did talk to a guy who I worked with who lived in an area where they had previously had the Sykesville monster sightings and encounters back in the early 70s. I had never heard about it. But he had a lot of family that lived there, a lot of family who had been original witnesses. The area it's an African-American community. It's along the river. So he introduced me to a lot of the people, and boy, I was into it then. Then I was getting interviews from people who originally had interviewed with the original media source, which was the Baltimore Afro-American newspaper, did the original story of the sightings. And I actually got more witnesses than they were actually interviewed the first time around. So I think I had like 18 witnesses.
Wow.
So at that time, that's kind of where I got started with cryptids. And after that, I started going more and more into it and started looking into other phenomena. And that's kind of where it started at for me.
What do you think Bigfoot is? Gotta ask that one.
I think it's a flesh and blood interdimensional being. I think it's corporeal. I think it is solid. I think it is a living being. Mm-hmm. But I do not believe, especially where I'm at in most of the country, I don't believe that they're indigenous. Now, there are areas of the country where I believe that there may be pods and groups and populations, Pacific Northwest, Florida, around the Gulf Coast and other areas. But I think for the most part, most of the sightings in other parts of the country are singular sightings for the most part. And I think these beings have the ability to move between worlds. I mean, when I say between worlds, I mean dimensions. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of cryptids have that ability.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, some
we haven't found a body.
Quantum mechanics.
We have very little. Yeah, we have very little physical evidence of really anything. So, at this point now, we can't prove it. We cannot prove the dimensional theory, though there are people that do believe that they have discovered portals and such. I'm familiar with a lot of that.
Yeah.
I've
Well,
experienced portals.
NASA admitted that they exist, but who trusts NASA anymore, anyways, right?
Well, I have been around portals in spiritual work. But as far as with cryptids, I can't really say that I have anything that I could prove. There's a lot of speculation, possibilities, but I think that there is that these cryptids in Bigfoot, cryptid canines, winged humanoids, and others do have the ability to come in and out between worlds, and that's just my thought. Honestly, as time has gone on, I think more and more investigators are starting to be more open-minded about it. It used to be a point where you had one side and the other side, and you still do to a point, but I think more people who have been involved with, especially the Bigfoot phenomena, are starting to realize that there's got to be an explanation as to why we're not getting physical evidence any more than what we are.
I mean, exactly. I mean, it's a 600, 700, 800-pound animal running around the woods. How could we not have caught it? You know what I mean? It's a relevant theory. Let's put it that way.
And it's a theory. I mean, as time goes on, let's say quantum computing becomes more of a consumer item, more affordable item, and it will eventually. I mean, you can buy quantum computers now. It's going to run you 20 grand, but you can get it. But as time goes on, just like everything else that's electronic, the price is going to come down, and there's going to be more demand for it. Maybe when people are starting to get into quantum computing, maybe something will be discovered. I'm hoping so. Maybe we can start getting answers and not rely on science to find answers for us.
Yeah. I think time goes on, we'll come across some kind of answers. But
I hope
we'll see how it goes. So, what's your favorite cryptid out of all of them that you've?
It's the winged humanoids. It's the winged humanoids. I mean, it's something I've been involved with since 1988. I knew about the Mothman phenomena down in Point Pleasant. I had an encounter in 1988 with two other gentlemen in Pennsylvania. And when that occurred, it just really sparked my interest. And of course, when I eventually started writing about it, maybe 20 years later, and started getting more and more information as to the local phenomena as far as with the winged humanoids, I became more and more interested in it. And incidentally, the sighting that I had and that other people have had in this location, South Central Pennsylvania, very similar to what people are seeing out in Chicago. So it's something that's kind of bugged me ever since that has happened. And then the Chicago sighting started. I mean, was I destined to be an investigator of this phenomenon? I don't know, but it just seems awful weird. I mean, you know how synchronicities go. Right. Sometimes these things just kind of go into place.
Mm-hmm.
So, so that's how I got involved with that. And, it's interested me ever since. Of course, I've been looking at phenomena worldwide. It's just not winged humanoids. It's other flying cryptids as well. And I'm just fascinated by the whole thing.
How many places are there being reported winged humanoids?
Worldwide. It's a worldwide phenomenon, but mostly in North America.
I didn't know if it was kind of certain parts of the U.S. that you predominantly get the reports from, or if it's across the nation, or.
Well, I mean, most of the sightings that we have gotten have been in this area. Pennsylvania's got a lot of sightings. I did a show just this past week about it. And of course, the Chicago upper Midwest area has got a lot of sightings and down in Florida, especially down in Pasco County, we've had some sightings around the Ocala area.
That's where I live.
Oh, do you?
I live in Pasco County. Yeah, that's interesting.
Do you? Well, Pasco County around Zephyr Hills has had a lot of sightings.
Damn, that's where I live, in Zephyr Hills. All right, I'll have to
do you?
I look around the skies all the time. I haven't seen one yet, but I'll keep it.
I had 3 Rukas.
We do have a lot of parachuters here. This is like a skydiving capital of the world, so maybe they're just seeing skydivers.
I don't know. Not
never know though.
Not when you have not with what I've been getting from people. These aren't skydivers.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this is when we investigated in Chicago. That's one of the theories was, well, you've got people in squirrel suits jumping on buildings and coming down. Well, look, they don't call Chicago the Windy City for nothing. And if you've got a squirrel suit on, you're jumping off the top of a building down towards the river. That ain't going to fly. I've talked to professionals about this, and they just tell me, well, I would never even think about doing something like that in Chicago downtown. So, so that kind of disproved that.
Well, it's a difference with something that looks like it has wings versus a squirrel suit anyways, to be honest with you. I mean, you can visibly see that.
Yeah. Well, and the way they fly, the way people had described the way they fly and maneuver around, it's something that a human just cannot do. So
Brian has a question. Lon,
sure.
What type of winged humanoids more than Mothman? Is there anything else?
Well, the winged humanoid phenomena kind of, the Mothman moniker in Chicago was not put on it by me. I called it the Phantom, the Chicago Phantom. But of course, when the media got a hold of it in Chicago, for the most part, they wanted to relate it to the Point Pleasant Mothman. So they started calling it the Chicago Mothman. So that's how the name got put on there. Gotcha. I didn't want to start confusing people because we had people calling left and right. And I went ahead with it and said, yeah, I'm investigating Chicago Mothman. So we went with it. But I didn't start that. But no, as far as winged humanoids go, I mean, it could be any humanoid-like being that has wings. And the wing structures can vary. We've had what people have described as owlman, gargoyles, the Jeepers Creepers, the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers. We've had all kinds of connotations of these things. But for the most part, the sightings in the area have been of a bat wing, membrane wing being. Many times with red eyes. We've also had blue and green eyes. That just shows up, fleeting sightings to the point where people are shocked by seeing it. When they grab their phone, the thing's gone. Very quick. They disappear quickly. But when you start getting 160 some sightings, you figure something's going on. So,
when the smoke, there's fire, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That's interesting. Wonder what could that possibly even be?
Is it anything like the Jersey Devil?
Well, the Jersey Devil is described as a winged being, but it's got like a head of a horse and it's got hooves, and the body structure is more animal than human. The whole Jersey Devil thing is fascinating. And look, I have talked to people who swear to God they've seen it. I've had police officers in South Jersey tell me they've seen it. So I have gathered a lot of sightings of it. I've been to the Pine Barrens many times over the years and looked for evidence. I can't say I've ever really found any. But, when you talk to the witnesses and see how they react, and that's one thing about this type of investigation, you can kind of tell when somebody's trying to pull the wool over your eyes. Many times people will try to embellish on a sighting to kind of make it sound better for you, for the investigator. Of course, I don't want that. I want what they saw and not embellish on it. But the Chicago sightings, for the most part, and this is something that's fascinated me and other people on the team is when people see this thing, it's almost like they're imprinted. They don't embellish on it. They tell you what they saw. We try to get them to kind of steer away from it, and they just will not do it. It's the way they saw it.
What do you mean by steer away? Like testing to see if they
just to test to see if
they're
see if they're playing games with this. And no, it just doesn't work like that. And I'll be honest with you, I've been doing this type of investigation for a long time. And now, of course, I've never had a phenomenon like this and so many sightings, and especially in an urban area. And where people just are really adamant about what they saw and stick to the story.
That's interesting for sure. How about do you get a lot of reports or have gotten any reports on the chupacabra, one of Grizzly's favorite?
Yeah, I don't know what to think about the chupacabra. The sightings here in the United States, for the most part, just either a mangy wolf or some type of hybrid wolf, or what we call blue dogs, which may be a Mexican wolf and a coyote mixed type of creature. They've been seen throughout Texas, Oklahoma, up into Kansas, maybe a little east from there into Louisiana, but and of course in Mexico. But the chupacabra, bloodsucker type of canine-looking creature, well, most of those sightings originated in Puerto Rico, actually. Mm-hmm. And throughout the Hispanic world, it's kind of expanded into other countries.
Well, didn't the original one actually look sort of alienish, have scales? And
well, I was going to say
they didn't even look like a dog, right?
Back and red eyes and all kinds of different. And most of those were all seen originally in Puerto Rico. And I have talked to many of those witnesses over the years, and there's some investigators down there who I communicate with who get these sightings, and they still see these things. I mean, but for people who are not familiar with Puerto Rico, UFO sightings are really, really prevalent there, especially in the rainforest. There's a lot of sightings. And it's very rare I will not get a sighting every couple of months from Puerto Rico or somebody who's had an encounter with some type of UFO, UAP, and many times with some type of being, some type of alien being.
They do seem to show up a lot on the Mexican and the Central America region, so it wouldn't be surprising.
Well, it's... I think almost every country in South America in particular has had some type of chupacabra scare. There was a big one in Chile back in the early 1990s. And, but, it's not really ever been proven that's what it was. I don't know what people are seeing. I mean, the one constant is many times there are sheep or livestock that has been killed because the blood sucked out of them or whatever. I know several serious investigators who have looked into this phenomena. I think some believe it, some don't, but it is what it is. But yeah, you're right. It originally started as something associated with UFO activity, and then people started seeing these things on houses and stuff and walking through neighborhoods. Had one try to bust into his house down there one time. So we do get them, but
yeah, you say something. They call them bloodsuckers because they have all their blood removed, but that also reminds me of cattle mutilation. When there's like not a drop of blood there, no blood within the cattle, nothing's, there's no mess. It makes you kind of wonder if there was something else going on there. UFO activity versus.
Yeah, the whole cattle mutilation phenomena, even human mutilation phenomena, it's an enigma. We do have evidence that it has happened. The cattle, well, there's a lot of theories on that. Some people say, well, it looks like they were surgically done, or maybe they were taken aboard a craft or abducted somehow, pulled up into a beam, then dropped off into a field, and the udders and the tongues and other parts were taken off and such.
With surgical precision.
Yeah, I don't know all about that. You know, I try to stay away from a lot of the conspiracy stuff as much as I can, though in this field, it's almost impossible to do that because it leaks in eventually. But, you know, maybe if we will get more information at some point. But you know, there are several people who do believe that this is a phenomena. And, you know, I used to write about it early when I started the blog, but I kind of stay away from a lot of that now until, you know, unless I do get something that does look interesting. And I will write about it and try to figure out as much as I can from the witnesses and such. But it's something that doesn't really show itself much with us.
Yeah. Well, it seems like a lot of times the UFOs and the paranormal and all this stuff starting to go hand in hand. You got the Bigfoot, the orbs, UFOs, and people are tying a lot of this stuff together because of the, you know, consistencies in stories and you know, testimonies that people come forward and they talk about it, say this is what they saw, and you know,
well, the paranormal
makes you wonder.
The paranormal is very, very, you know, closely connected. I mean, all aspects of the paranormal, I believe, at this point, have been seen by us being connected somehow. You know, you'll get a Bigfoot sighting. Many times you'll get orbs associated with the Bigfoot sighting. You'll see it later on when the investigator goes to the location, then orbs show up. There's been a lot of UFO activity associated with Bigfoot sightings, especially here in Pennsylvania. You know, it does seem to be a lot of spirit or possibly other dimensional activity associated with a lot of phenomena with cryptids and of course with alien beings and unknown humanoids and such. So it's, you know, there's a fine line between all aspects of the paranormal. But I think as time goes on, more and more people are starting to connect that. You know, when you would have a sighting, and you would contact an investigator years ago, say you had a Bigfoot sighting. Well, that's what the investigator would look at. They would look at the sighting themselves. And many times, if you would bring up the fact, well, I also saw orbs. Well, I don't worry about that. We're just going to stick with the Bigfoot sighting. It's not like that anymore. Very rarely will I have an investigation of a sighting of any kind where something other than the sighting itself is involved with it. Now, the witness may not come forward initially with the other aspects of it, but as time goes on, many times they will.
Or maybe they just didn't put two and two together. I mean, somebody might have seen an orb and not even thought about it, or, you know, so
exactly.
Sometimes they hear about it later on. They're like, wait a minute.
And it does happen. It happens a lot. And I think most of the cases I do get now have some type of other aspect of paranormal associated with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not uncommon these days. It seems
it's not cut and dry.
No. Oh, no.
And, you know, when people that get into this and they start looking at cryptids in particular, but even if they're looking at UFOs and possible humanoids and alien beings, you got to really have an open mind about it, and you got to take a lot of things into consideration. Quite frankly, if you want answers, you're going to have to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about them. Can't have a closed mind, that's for sure.
No.
What about some of the cases, Lon, that turn out to be hoaxes or fakes? Have you come across those?
Oh, we all do. Yeah, I kind of drop those quickly. I take from it what I can get from it, if there's any valid information, but if there's not, then I just kind of let it go by the wayside. And I will tell a witness. If I think they're full of crap, I'll tell them, you know. I mean, if you can prove otherwise, then fine. But I don't have time to concentrate on hoaxes. I got enough people wanting someone on our team to go to a location and look and investigate something for them, too many people want answers, but you know, a lot of people want to get their name out there too, and you got to take that into consideration.
I will say this, ladies and gentlemen, as a witness to a potential hoax that he came across about a month and a half ago, he will smite you down. So just be cautious when you go to report something to an investigator. Do not waste somebody's resources. And the way you handle that particular incident was very professional. And I admired you how you handled that in that group chat, because I was very appalled. I didn't make a comment because I was so upset, especially with your resources and your it was just astonishing how people would just ad lib something, right, and turn around and you caught them, and it was just, I don't know, but I applaud you.
Well, I mean, you know, that's part of what we get into. I mean, if you're going to have, you know, you got to separate the wheat from the chaff, and if it's crap, it's crap, and then you got to you got to let anybody know about it and not be associated with it. And that's just the way I look at it. I just don't have time for all that nonsense.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And that does go throughout the community, ladies and gentlemen. People do reach out to me and ask questions, and I will filter that information to other investigators or podcasters or researchers. Yeah, we share the information with each other. Valiant Thor, watching for Los Alamos National Laboratory. Interesting. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Hopefully enjoy the show.
Welcome aboard.
But no, it's just, you know, because a lot of people don't hear about that. But and I'm glad somebody asked that question. And but it does happen. And because a lot of people ask, you know, about people that come on our shows, and they ask, is this person credible or reliable? And we do validate them. And just like Lon has a very good, he's very credible. I mean, he's been in the field for how many years? 40 something?
45 at least.
Yeah.
Almost 50.
So, yeah, it's, and he's well known. So, but yeah, don't do it, because it will come back and haunt you. Because once you get that reputation, you cannot come back from it. Sorry.
Oh, I've seen people get blacklisted very quickly, even investigators.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, you get labeled a hoax, it sticks with you.
Oh, yeah, it does. I mean, you know, there are times when we are fooled, and I'll admit to that. I think every investigator does get fooled at some point. But
you want to believe, and you got to be open-minded, right? I mean, that's
yeah. But if you get, you know, if you do just figure out that it is a hoax, then you got to let it be known and wash it off of you and make sure people know that you know it's a hoax. I've done it. I don't like doing it, but it happens, and it's just part of what we do.
Right. Absolutely.
So you wrote 9 books. What was the subjects about? I'm sure a little bit of everything there.
The first 5 books were like a compilation of cases and reports I had received when I first started working on the blog. And they're not in publication right now. I may actually take all 5 of those books and put it into one volume, edit it out, and release it at some point. But the books that I do have available, and they're all an audiobook as well, are the Mothman Dynasty, which was a book I wrote about the beginnings of this, the Mothman, Chicago Phantom Phenomena. The next book I wrote was Alien Disclosure, Experiencers Expose Reality. I've done a lot of work with abductees and people who have had alien encounters over the years. That's probably my most popular book.
The abductee one?
Sold a lot of those.
Wow.
And then the next book I wrote was the Winged Cryptids book, where I go into more in depth half through the book of other encounters around Chicago, but then I start dealing with other winged cryptids phenomena worldwide. And my last book was the Meme Humanoid book, which basically discusses, because I have no answer for what these things are, even though I wrote a book about it.
Say that again. The
meme humanoids.
Meme
M-E-M-E. Now, this is the crawler humanoid phenomena that people have been experiencing for about a decade now. But the reason I called it the meme humanoids is because it became very prominent around the time of the Slender Man phenomena,
right?
Which I think is a thought form. I think it's a tulpa. That's something that's mind manifested.
Well,
so what I did,
what was that spaghetti something or other that came up from?
Yeah.
Yes. That's it.
And I think a lot of these, what people report, that's very similar to that. And I go back to other cases as well. May very well be thought form manifestations. I mean, it's very similar to what a poltergeist is. Yeah, that book, that was kind of a spur of the thing book. I wasn't really going to write about it.
I've never heard of that.
For whatever reason, we were getting a lot of reports of these really freaky looking humanoids. And look, we had a lot of these sightings that were very credible sightings. I mean, where people really believed that they saw something or had an encounter. And I think some of them did. But there are other sightings that just don't, it's just hard to figure out what people are seeing. So that was my last book. I wrote that about 2 years ago. I'm going to try to write 2 more this year because I took last year off, and me and another gentleman are thinking about writing a book about the Glimmerman phenomena. For those who are familiar with with this glimmer effect of possible cloaking of cryptid beings. Similar to what the Predator movies.
That's the whole topic is about that.
Yeah, because we've gotten a lot of reports about these things. I guess the original, most well-known report is Bruce Maccabee and his wife, who saw one of these beings in Ohio years ago when she was deer hunting. But no, we get a lot of those. We really do, and it's an interesting subject. This other investigator asked me if we wanted to work together, so we're thinking about it. And I've been working on a cryptid canine book for years now, and I may eventually get that out there. My publisher, I keep telling my publisher I'm going to, but we'll see.
It's a hot topic right now.
I just don't have a lot of time to do that. Writing a book it's not really something I really wanted to do at one point. And I'll be honest with you, when I was in high school, I was in remedial reading and writing. I mean, I was not a good reader or writer at all. It's funny how things like that pan out. But yeah, it's but yeah, I may try to do at least one this year. I keep telling people I will, but we'll see.
Interesting. Very cool. Should go hang out in the LBL with everybody else this coming April.
Yeah, the LBL. That's a story. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if the whole thing is even true. I have no doubt that people have seen certain things in that area. In fact, I've got rangers and other witnesses who have swore to God that they've seen these things that had encounters. But the LBL, the actual original encounter where supposedly people were hurt or even killed, I don't know how true that is. I haven't really seen the evidence to where it satisfies me. I've heard a lot of variations of the story, but I'm open-minded. So somebody wants to give me some real positive evidence, and sure, I'll look into it. But look, I've got so many cryptid canine reports to choose from. I could probably write 3 books.
Well, I'm sure that's you've had other instances of the 3-letter agency showing up to cryptid situations, right? So they sweep that stuff under the rug, and that would be one of those situations.
I have never had anybody from the alphabet agencies contact me about cryptids, but I sure have had them contact me about people who I've worked with to try to get answers about government involvement with certain situations. I've had 3 of those interviews.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
little to the point where they came into my doctor's office one day and pulled me out and interviewed me. So, yeah, it does happen. They do interview.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was more referring to when you're talking to somebody that had an encrypted encounter and they show up during that encounter or somewhere after the encounter and they try to
It happens.
make things go away. Yeah.
It happens. Yep, it happens.
Interesting. So, actually, Lon, a year and a half ago, I had the CIA woke up one night and one of my shows got flagged because
Did
the
it?
topics. Yeah. I didn't believe it at first until I got the phone call.
It happens.
So they do monitor.
I had 3 instances, 2 of them where they came to my home. And those were about UFO sightings that I was looking into.
That's wild.
And those were back in the early 2000s. But in 2015, I was looking at, no, it was 2014. I was looking into a location where the homeowner swore that there were government agents on his land. You know, I never really proved that there were, but I was digging. And that's what got the attention of the NSA. I mean, the NSA literally, I was at my doctor's office one day, my regular doctor appointment. Went back into the examination room. I'm sitting there, I was knocking the door, nurse opens the door up, she said, Mr. Strickler, you're going to have to come out into the waiting room because there's 2 people out here that want to talk to you. And I can't let them come back here. I'm thinking, okay. Well, I go out there and it's the waiting room is full of people. And you got a man and a woman standing there, one in a black suit and one in a black dress. And they flash their badges right there in front of everybody. Said, Mr. Strickler from National Security Administration, we'd like to talk to you. We have an office secured across the hallway. Will you follow us, please?
That's a no shame move right there.
So, of course, I went with them and we sat down and I said, well, what's this about? Which I knew what it was about. But they said, well, this gentleman, we've got some questions about him. He's been bugging Congress people and other people in the government about this. And we found out that you've been looking into it for him. You've been asking questions. We'd like you to back off. No problem. I said, hey, no problem. I mean, now when I had to break the news to the guy that I was no longer involved with it, he literally came to my house 3 times to try to talk me back into doing it.
Oh, wow.
The guy I was working with, who's deceased now, but he was kind of laughing. He thought it was kind of funny. I got flagged. But he said, well, you did the right thing. He said, I wouldn't even expect you to do something, beyond that. So, and my wife she was living at the time and she was a little upset about it. So keep peace. I just backed away from it, but I wasn't going to look into any further anyway. But it does happen.
What are you supposed to do? Tell them to go fly a kite?
Yeah.
No,
Become the next target.
Yeah, and I've had people, every time I tell that story, I have people question, well, why'd you back off? Look,
you know what my
you don't want them crawling in and out of your life, and I know people who have resisted suggestion with them in the past and have had problems. So I have enough problems. I don't need that. So yeah,
my first response would have been, do you realize underneath the Clinton administration how many people disappeared and died? I'm good.
It happens.
I don't want to die of a heart attack or car wreck. So I'm good. No.
Yeah, blowfish.
They were very professional, very nice to me, and didn't give me any crap. Maybe if I'd have disagreed with what they were asking me to do, maybe they would have. But I never saw them again or heard from them again. That was the last time I was ever contacted.
That was a bold statement. Ladies and gentlemen, when they show up in person, That is a stern warning that you will adhere to my warning, or else. That's not hello, how are you? They don't just come up and announce in public who they are. I'm sorry. I know how some of these agencies work, so I'm just saying. But it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
So.
got to tread lightly on that stuff. You got to think that everything that we say, I mean, the NSA with the power of AI, and we already know that everything that we put out on podcasts automatically gets transcript and CC captions. So the AIs read all that stuff or even interpret the words. I mean, they get flagged instantly.
It's been going on a long time before AI, because I have several friends who worked at NSA. And some of the stories they told me back in the 90s when they were working there, when I was living down in Maryland. Those are people you don't want to fool with. So, yeah.
No, not at all. not at all. So that's funny. Interesting. So how do people get a hold of you, Lon?
Well, all you got to do is go to the blog, and I've got my email and my phone number actually listed there. It's Lon Strickler, phantomsandmonsters.com. And the website is at phantomsandmonsters.com. And we also have the team site at cryptidhunters.org. And it's Phantoms and Monsters 14 research team. And if you want to call me, I will answer the phone and talk to you. So, if you have any questions about anything, or that's what I'm here to do. That's what I do. I'm retired. I can do anything I want to do, and I will listen to you and talk to you and tell you what I think. And, we'll try to do the best we can for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's very personable, very easy to get a hold of. Really, reach out to him, subscribe, hit him up. Once again, I greatly appreciate you coming on.
No problem.
It's always an honor and having you on any of the shows or platforms that that we're on anytime. Always an honor and a pleasure. So never a dull moment with you. I always love to hear that story when you first started out with Bigfoot. I mean, 10 seconds, when, people don't realize, when you get certified on the taser, right? When you take that ride for 5 seconds, it don't seem long when you say 5 seconds, but when you're taking that ride, it seems like eternity, and Brian Barber made that comment, 10 seconds. That's a long time to lock eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, you sit there and count that out, ladies and gentlemen, 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1. I mean, that's think about
that. The average sighting is 3 to 5 seconds to sit there and lock eyes for 10 seconds. And, the whole sighting that you had was longer than that. So it's pretty incredible.
Just something you never forget,
No,
and,
absolutely.
I feel fortunate? Sure. I probably would have never got into any of this if that didn't happen to me. So, yeah.
But, my question is, and I always think about this over the years, right? Because I look at things, and you said it earlier about coincidences and everything else and how things fall in place in life.
Synchronicities.
So I think we all have our destinies that are laid out before us, in life. And how we get there is our free will. Some of us takes a little bit longer than others, but it always falls in line, just like me getting in law enforcement and into Bigfoot and paranormal as well. But it's weird how you look back. Why me?
Exactly.
So
it's true.
But thank you again. And
thank you, Lon. Appreciate it.
Have a good night. And from coast to coast around the world, everybody, have a good evening. Take care. Bye-bye.